Hey everybody, in this tutorial I'm going to be going over with you the Onshape CAD Practice Exercises assignment. And for this assignment, you're going to want to make sure you go to your Modules tab and then select the correct lesson or activity. And again, what you're going to be doing is following a set of steps that you're going to be adding to a previous part that you created, which is the sketching and extruding part you did in the first couple exercises using Onshape. So obviously the first step that you're going to need to do for this is to go to Onshape and log in. And then you're going to open up your sketching and extruding part. So when you're in your documents and you've logged into Onshape, then what you're going to do is go ahead and open up sketching and extruding. So again, as mentioned before, what we're going to be doing here is adding some new or some other features to this part we've created previously. And again, let's go ahead and look at the directions. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use the CAD practice document linked here below to follow those directions. And so you're going to click on this document and it's going to open up to a PDF file here. You can download this and make this yours, or you can just read directly off of the linked page here. And there are 9 exercises that we're going to be adding. And ultimately what your figure is going to look like is, well, what you see here in the red areas on the figure that we had created previously. So again, we're just going to be adding a few things here. Now, looking at the directions, you can see it says to skip steps 1 and 2 on the directions, and we're going to go ahead and start with step 3. So let's go ahead and look at that. So we're skipping over step 1, and you can see all the steps listed here in the table of contents. And again, basically what step 1 is asking you to do is to copy a model, but you already have the model, so you don't need to copy anything. Step 2 is to verify the model is correct. We know it's correct. We've already did it together earlier on, so you should be good there. And now we're going to move directly into step 3, which is to add feet using the extrude tool onto the bottom of our figure. So you can see here, the width of each foot is going to be 0.2 inches, and the height of each foot is going to be 0.2 inches. And again, we're going to be adding a sketch to the bottom of the figure. So the directions, as you're going to find as you go through this tutorial, are going to be listed right here. It's going to tell you where to sketch, and it's going to tell you what features to apply, and then the distances that we're going to need to create. So you can always go back and use this document for reference as needed. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and rotate our figure. Notice I have the top work plane here selected. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So if yours is still on, you can turn it off. We don't need that right now, but we do need to rotate to the bottom. So I'm going to use my view cube on the top right corner, rotate it to the bottom view, and now I need to create a sketch on that bottom plane. So I got to select that. So now I have a sketch 5, and now I'm going to rotate my view all the way to the bottom so I can just focus in on that, and then obviously you can zoom in, zoom out as needed. Next thing is we're going to come to the top, and we're going to select corner rectangle, and I'm going to go to the top left corner, click and drag, go all the way to the bottom, click. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side in that corner, go all the way to the bottom. And by going all the way to the bottom, I know that I'm making it the correct length or height in this case here. Now I just need to change the width dimension, the distance from the outer edge to the new rectangle that I created. So we're going to select the dimension tool, select the top edge, and now this is where we're going to make it 0.2, enter. And do the same thing on the other rectangle that I just created, 0.2, enter. And now I have my 2 feet sketched out on the bottom surface of our figure. And so I'm going to go ahead and select the green check mark. That will go ahead and finish the sketch. Now I can go back to isometric view quickly. But again, I can't see the bottom there, so I just want to tilt it slightly. And so now I need to extrude the bottom. And again, the extrusion is going to be the exact same. So I'm going to change my depth here to 0.2. It's going to be a solid. It's going to be a new. And then we're going to go ahead and select as a blind and then a depth of 0.2. So now I'm going to select each one of those feet, one there and one there. And notice when we extruded, we have the 2 feet that have now come out as 0.2 inches. And once you have that, you can go ahead and select the green check mark. And that is step 3. So now let's go ahead and look at step 4 in our directions. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down. And now we're going to add a square hole to the pin, again, using extrude and then a remove. So again, looking at the dimensions of the square, it's going to have a width and height of 0.2. So we're going to have a 0.2 square. And the depth is going to be 0.5 inches. So now we're going to use a center point rectangle to do that. So let's go back to our figure. Let's go ahead and select isometric view. Again, we're going to need to select a sketch, and then we're going to choose the surface area of the pin here. So I'm going to select that. That's going to create our sketch 6. And now I'm on that surface area. So I'm now going to change it to the right side view so I can look directly at that pin. And I'm going to go ahead and choose a center point rectangle. And now I want to make sure I'm in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and click right when I see that square, that gold square there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and make sure the rectangle is smaller than the circle. And then I will adjust the dimensions. Okay, so I've done that. And again, just looking at the dimensions. And again, it's a square of 0.2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and dimension. Make that 0.2. Enter. And it looks like it might have also done the other sides, but I'll just double check. Oh no, a little bit smaller there. 0.2, enter. So we just make sure we have 2 perpendicular sides, dimension for our square, and they're both 0.2 inches. And then we finish our sketch. Go ahead back to isometric view. And now I'm going to, again, use an extrude. And this time I'm going to select remove. And the depth, I believe, was 0.5. Yes, okay, 0.5 inches. So we're going to change our depth to 0.5. And now I'm going to select the square that we just drew. And now it goes in 0.5, and I go ahead and select the green check mark. So now I have the next 2 steps done. For step 5, what we're going to be doing is adding a semicircle extrusion to the feet using the extrude and add feature. So we're going to kind of add these little bumpers to each side of the figure on the bottom of the feet. So what we're going to be doing is creating a semicircle using the center point circle tool, and then making sure that it is lined up appropriately and it is measured to a 0.2 inch diameter, and then extruding it back to the other face or the other side of the figure here. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and create a new sketch. Okay, and we're going to create that sketch on this face here. We should be able to do this all at the same time. So I select that surface, create sketch, and now I am on that surface here, that whole face there on our front side. So I'm going to make the front my focus, and I'm going to add 2 center point circles. Okay, so I'm going to start with the one here. So center point circle, and I'm going to go ahead and draw the circle here and put one there, and then we're going to put one over here. And we're going to do a couple things to make sure that these are the right size. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is select dimension, and we're going to make those diameters of those circles 0.2 inches. Same thing on the other side. Okay, but I want to make sure that they're all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and use my coincident constraint. So if you hit the drop down here, Coincidence always the first one. It was the one that was already shown on my toolbar. But to make it coincident, what we're going to do is select the outside of the circle. And then if you need to zoom in and just do the corner, and that'll slide that circle down to make sure it's all the way touching that corner. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Select the outside of the circle and then the corner. And again, that'll move that circle down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use our line tool just to make sure. And we're going to draw vertical lines from the top edge of the circle. I think it would do it anyway, but we're going to do this to the bottom. Okay. And then escape line, select line again, do it on the other side. And what we're trying to do is, because we don't need the entire circle, we only need half of it. So this is cutting the circle in half. And then when we go to extrude, it'll make it a lot easier. Okay. So I did that, and now we're going to go ahead and finish the sketch. And go back to isometric view. Okay, so now you can see you have your two circles there, and now we're ready to extrude. So we're going to select extrude, and we are going to go ahead and add, but this time we're going to change it, okay, and it's going to go up to face. So what I did was, instead of choosing blind, I hit the little drop down arrow next to blind here, which is going to allow us to choose a new end type. And I'm going to select up to face, okay? And I'm going to select both of the outside half circles. So I'm going to select that one and this one. So I'm selecting two surfaces at the same time. And it says up to face. Okay, now it wants to know which face do you want it to extrude to. So we're selecting a different surface. Well, we want it on the other side. So we're going to have to rotate our view. So I'm going to select in the red area here. That turns blue, so we're telling it now that we're ready to select the surface we want it to extrude to. But then I'm going to rotate my view to the opposite of the front, which would be the back. And then I'm going to select that surface. And notice now it changes the direction, and it's also solid. And now you can see it there. So then if you see that kind of on both sides there, you know you pretty much have it. And then you're going to go ahead and hit the green check mark. And then if you go back to isometric view, you should now see it, the bumpers on each side. So I can kind of rotate it to each side there. And you can see those little bumpers on the end of the feet. And that is that step. So for step 6, what they want us to do is actually mirror the bumper onto the other side instead of doing two extrusions. So what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and deleted the one half of the extrusion. So from what I had done before where I drew two circles, I just went ahead and deleted one of the bumpers and kept the original. So just to show you how to mirror it, if you did it the original way I showed you, that's perfectly fine. But again, here's another way that you can do something in Onshape. Always more than one way to solve a problem here. So we're going to go ahead and mirror this. So what we need to do before we can mirror it is we need to activate our right plane, because when you're mirroring something, you always need to mirror it over a plane which would be in the middle of our figure. And in this case, it's going to be the right. So I'm going to go ahead and unhide the right plane here. And the reason I'm doing the right plane is if I kind of rotate my view to the front, you can see that right plane is going right down the middle. So that's going to give us a plane to mirror through. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mirror tool. Okay. And then it's going to ask me what part do I want to mirror. So, and actually I don't want that. I want to do a feature mirror. So I'm going to hit the little drop down. So again, to show you that again, I don't want a whole part because that's what this whole thing is. So what I want to do is hit the little drop down and I'm going to hit where it says feature mirror. Okay. Now I can pick a specific feature that I want to mirror, which is going to be this little bump here. And then it's going to ask me, okay, well, what plane do I want? And I'm going to select that and select the plane. And now you can see that it added the little bumper here on the other side. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit the green check mark. And again, just to rotate the view around so you can see, it mirrored it to the other side. And so what you can do is go back to isometric view, and I don't believe we need the right plane again, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that. But again, if we wanted to reopen it, we would just click on the eye, and then we'll just zoom to fit. And now we'll go on to our next step. For step 7, what we're going to be doing is adding 2 rounded holes to the right face of the part using an extrude and remove. So looking at the requirements of the design, the hole diameters are going to be 0.25 inches. They're going to be the distance from the center of the pin is 0.625 inches in each direction and hole depth of 0.1 inch. Now, it also says to add both of the holes on the right face of the part and should be in line with the pin. So that's going to be important. So now that'll set the location and help us to set the location of those holes. That's really important here. So let's go ahead and create that by creating a sketch on the right side face. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our figure, and we're going to click sketch, and then we're going to choose this surface here. That'll create our next sketch, and again, it's on the right side, so I'll focus in there. Now we're going to do 2 center points. Okay, and I want to make sure I'm in line with the center as it's set in the directions here. And so if I kind of hover over the center of our pin or our square here, I should get a little, let's see if I can get a little dash line to show up. Okay, there's one there. Drag it open. What I'm looking for is that little dash line to appear. And that really helps me to make sure that I'm in line with the center without having to dimension that aspect of it. Okay, so now let's go back and look at our dimensions again, just to verify what we need to do. All right, so the hole diameters are going to be 0.25 inches. So let's start with that. So I'm going to select dimension, click on the outside, make them 0.25. This one. So now both of the holes have a diameter of 0.25 inches. Next step is the distance from the center of the pin is 0.625 inches. So that's helping me with location. So now what I'm going to do is dimension from the center to the center of the pin. So now what I'm going to do here is line it up and make sure that's 0.65. So I had to use the bottom point here for whatever reason. Probably because when I put the square in, it wasn't making it, but that'll help me at least be in the center. And you're going to be 0.625 inches. Okay, same thing on the other side. Click the center of the circle, and you can just use this bottom point here. And again, you don't want it tilted. You want to make sure it's nice and straight. 0.625. Okay. So now I have my locations of my pins. I have the diameters. Now I need to mark the depths of those holes. So we're going to finish our sketch. We're going to go back to isometric view. And again, what we're going to do is use the extrude tool to remove. And that removal is going to be 0.1 inches. So I'm going to select the depth. Before I select both holes, I can go ahead and select the depth, make that 0.1, and then choose each of the circles. And you can see that removes inward, and then just hit the green check mark. And now you have the 2 holes on the right side of the face. Now we'll go on to the next step. For step 8, what we're going to be doing is creating a center slot groove using the extrude remove tool. So it's this kind of little V shape here that we're going to be cutting through the entire figure right in the middle of our slot here. So what we're going to need to do is create a sketch. Okay, and then we're going to create a little profile using our line tool. to create a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and then slot depth distance of 1/16 of an inch or 0.0625. So that's what we will be doing. So let's go ahead and create our sketch. So again, we're going to create our sketch here. We're going to select this surface here, and that'll create our sketch. And then we will go ahead and rotate to the front, zoom out a little bit. Okay, and now we're going to use a construction line to help us mark the center to make sure everything gets lined up. So I'm going to choose the line tool, and then I'm going to choose construction, and I'm just going to draw a line from our center point here directly up to the base of our slot here. And that's going to help us keep everything centered. So then I'm just going to right click escape line. And that's going to help us keep everything centered. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to use our line tool to help us draw our triangle here. And then we're going to dimension that triangle based on its angle. So I want to make sure that on that line, we go up to this point here. Okay, and then right click, escape line. Sometimes it tilts. Okay, so now I want to make sure my angles are correct. So I'm going to go ahead and dimension. I'm going to choose the top of the slot here and this angle. And notice I have to come in here. So it's going to get a little tight with these angles. Okay, and I want to make sure it's 45 degrees. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Drag out this way. Make sure that's 45. It is. Okay, we're good there. Okay, now I want to set the distance of the height from this point here to the top edge and make that 0.0625. Enter. Okay, it looks like I've run into a little bit of an error here when I was trying to make the correct distance of the base of my triangle here. So we obviously can't have anything that has a red error like this. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. So you can either hit the back button or just delete the dimension. So Control Z, because I don't want that. Okay, and I'm deleting that little grayed out dimension there. Okay, so I need to make this the correct distance from the top or bottom edge of the slot here and the top edge of my rectangle to the point, right? And so when I do that, it errors. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and click on our construction line we did first. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Okay, now that changes the lines here back to blue, but I still have my degree measurement. So now I'm going to go ahead and dimension from the top edge to that point and make that 0.0625. Okay, so that worked. Okay, so now I have the correct dimension that I want. However, it's no longer lined up. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my line and my construction line back in that I had before. Okay, so now that line's back in. So I'm going to go ahead and right click escape line. Now I need to get the triangle back lined up with the center. So what I'm going to do now is use my coincident constraint tool and select the point of the triangle to now our dashed line, and that will slide it over. So now I know I'm in the right spot. So for whatever reason before, it wouldn't let us do that. So I had to make a little correction. So hopefully that will solve the problem. Okay, now to finish this off, what I'm going to do is select the line tool one more time. This time I don't want construction line selected. And all I'm going to do is close the profile of the triangle. So I've got to click the two endpoints that I created here. Okay, and now I have a closed profile for my triangle. I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch. I'm going to go ahead to isometric view. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and extrude. I'm going to select remove. And then I'm going to change my blind to through all because I want it to go all the way through. And I'm just going to select the rectangle. And notice it goes all the way back. And then I'm going to hit the check mark. And then isometric view. And you can see it going all the way through. And that's our step 8. So now let's take a look at step 9. For the last step, what we're going to be doing is personalizing our part by having a little fun and adding our name onto the part itself. And we're going to be using the text tool and then also the extrude remove or add tool, depending on how you want to or how you want your name to look on the part. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create a sketch again on the front surface here and then use text to put our name in. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so obviously, again, we need a sketch. We're going to choose the front surface, and then I'm going to rotate to my front view. Now I'm going to use the text tool. The text tool is right here. It's this A with the little dotted box around it. And then what you can do is you're just going to kind of start in the top left and then just drag open a box, okay? And then we'll be able to line this up here in a minute. And then you're going to type in your name. So I'll put in Mr. and hit enter and hit check mark. Okay, so now we can kind of move this box around a little bit and make some adjustments. So one of the things you can do is notice there's a little center line going right down the middle here. If we put a point on that in the middle, it'll add a little dot there, and then turn the center point off and then grab it, and then you can kind of guide it and move it. And then you can move it up or down because we don't want it overlapping. There we go. So we want it kind of slightly under. You could also dimension the height of this box. So let's say we clicked on this edge here. So again, we click on this edge, select dimension, select on this right edge. And then let's say we wanted to make it 0.2. There's no requirement. It doesn't tell you in the directions what it needs to be. You can adjust it how you'd like. Makes it a little bit smaller. And then you have what you need there. And now we're centered a little more based on how your name is, the size of your name. You just want to make sure it's all fitting onto it. It's not hanging off the edges of the part. We're going to go ahead and select Finish Sketch. We're going to go back to Isometric View. Now you have the option. You're going to go ahead and extrude, okay? And you're going to pick your name. And notice it defaults, okay, to 1 inch. That's obviously a lot. Okay, so I would try, let's try 0.1, see what that looks like. Okay, a little bit less, right? Maybe let's do 0.05. And hit enter, gets a little bit less, right? So it's reducing inside each time. And so you could do it that way, or you could do a remove, and where it cuts into the part and removes your name, so it kind of embeds into the figure. So it's really up to you which way you want to go. You can have it extrude out, or you can make it pop out a little bit, or what we would say emboss it. So it's really completely up to you how you want it to look. You just want to make sure it fits onto the plane and it looks creative. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and hit the green check mark. And now you are finished with your Onshape CAD practice exercises. If you have any questions, please let me know.